Moving on to your profile, I just noticed that you have published a lot many research papers. As you know, I apply causal inference methods to the field of marketing. But in my free time, I like to read about causal methods application in other domains as well. For example, economics, social sciences, epidemiology, etc. So I just want to pick your brain on one of your research papers, if I may. That research paper is titled Corruption and Economic Growth in Latin America and the Caribbean. And I just read a bit. I could infer that you're talking about, bidirectional causality. Can you explain a little bit about this paper and how it is, bidirectional causality there?
Sure, sure. Uh, we are going to talk about causal methods in some minutes, I believe. But I should let our viewers know that this paper is a more exploratory paper. There's no way to find like this value is by how much corruption affects growth. This disclaimer made, the paper tries to say, well, corruption happens, and we see a lot of poor countries with prevailing corruption, and we see rich countries which we believe have lower levels of corruption. So let's test this relationship because we would like to make it more actionable on how to fight corruption would help societies like grow. And the problem there was that, well, couldn't it be that we are corrupt because we are poor instead of we are poor because we are corrupt, right? It makes sense. And with the data, we try to validate what comes first. Is corruption that is affecting growth, or growth that is affecting corruption? If it's growth that is affecting corruption, we call it reverse causality because we are looking at the other way around, right? But it could also be that they form a cycle that one simultaneously affect the other. Right? We are poor, that's why we are corrupt, but this corruption also makes us more poor and it traps us in this cycle. So this would be the bidirectional causality or simultaneity that we call in the paper. And we try to validate whether this is a cycle by doing something that the MMM also does, that is, well, let's include legged variables of corruption and growth in this regression to see whether past values of each variable affect the variable that we're assessing. And then we apply a Granger causality test that many people have heard about. Granger, like basically he came up with a test that a layperson would interpret as, well, let's check whether the cause came before the effect. Right? Makes sense. And we find out that yes, it's cyclical, like those two things reinforce each other. And there are also some mechanisms through which we remain poor. Like people don't want to invest in this country because we are corrupt, and we call those the mechanisms, how one thing flows to the other.
Yeah, understood.